discovering my inheritance during a family gathering. You won't believe their reactions. The clink of ice in glasses was too loud for a memorial lunch. We were in my Aunt Nora's backyard, cicadas sawing under the patio lights, when she pressed a thick envelope into my hands. Notary letterhead. Raised seal. It came this morning, she said, eyes flicking to Evan, 33M, my cousin and the family business manager, who was suddenly fascinated by the charcoal grill. I'm Riley, 28F. I stock shelves at a bookstore and avoid drama like potholes. My grandmother, June, died 6 weeks ago. Today was supposed to be casseroles and stories, not a legal thud on a plastic tablecloth. Put it away, Evan murmured, thumb worrying his ring. We'll handle it privately. He reached, but my aunt held his wrist. Open it, she said. I slid a nail under the paper. My name stared back from attorney letterhead PDF, printouts, bequest language I didn't understand, and a bold line. Beneficiary. Riley M. ______. My throat tightened. My grandmother's fountain pen click echoed in memory. She loved precise lines and checklists. A Bluetooth speakerphone cracked alive on the picnic table. Aunt Nora had already dialed the executor. Static. A voice cleared his throat. I'm on, he said. We can proceed. Evan pinched the bridge of his nose like the sun had just sharpened. Wait, he said, smile going thin. Riley wasn't supposed to. The attorney asked us all to sit down before he read my name aloud. The attorney asked everyone to sit down and listen very carefully. Update, 30 minutes later. Evan called it a mix-up between drafts. He said words like placeholder and working copy, tapping the table's edge in staccato. I watched him inhale to compose himself, then exhale like he owned air. Grandma talked to me about logistics, he said, eyes scanning faces for nods. Some relatives nodded, grateful for a script. I scanned the beneficiary list redaction and swallowed hard at my initials. Contradictions popped like oil. My aunt pulled up a calendar invite. While reading, from 3 days after the funeral, sent to Evan and his mother, not to me. We meant to tell you, he said, tucking the phone against his thigh. It's sensitive. He said, we like it was a safety net. Sensitive for whom? I asked. Chair legs scraped tile as people shifted. My uncle stirred a glass too hard. Ice chimed. The attorney on speaker calmly asked for an email to confirm addresses. Evan said he would forward later. The attorney asked for it now. Evan's smile calcified. My phone is dying, he said. The battery icon on his screen showed 78%. Nora poured tea with hands that didn't shake. You'll forward now, she said, voice soft as a threat. I touched the envelope again, feeling the emboss against my fingertip, and the air shifted from grief to calculation. A cicada droned so loud it sounded electrical. Evan's jaw ticked. He whispered to his mother that I was too emotional for this. Evan called it a misunderstanding while hiding messages labeled reading of will. First confirmation. I stepped inside to my aunt's hallway, AC vent humming. On her console table, I flattened pages and took photos. The notary seal close-up glinted under lamplight, embossed with a date that matched the funeral week. I texted the executor my email. He replied with a fresh, attorney letterhead PDF and a trustee email, case hashtag. It included my full legal name, spelled with the middle initial only Grandma used. Evan followed me in, standing just at the threshold like a bouncer. You don't even like the business, he said. Grandma wanted continuity. He kept his tone reasonable and his eyes sharp. I remembered the summer I cleaned inventory with Grandma while Evan went to meetings. She'd taught me the old radio jingle for Cedar and June Tools, her hardware and supply company, and laughed when I got the timing wrong. Continuity, yes, but not like this. Back outside, chairs scraped, murmurs rose. I forwarded the PDF to my own account and to Aunt Nora's. Evan muttered, lawyer shopping, like an incantation. The executor's voice returned. There's a clause we'll discuss later, he said. But first, acknowledgement of beneficiary status. My phone vibrated with an attachment, calendar invite. While reading, with my name added, timestamped 5 minutes ago by the executor. Evan's ears went pink. He smiled at me without his eyes. The notary's seal matched the envelope no one expected at brunch. The other stakeholder, speakerphone, and a neighbor. I'm Marla, 50F, a new voice said, executor's assistant, coming in on speaker with a crisp consonant click. I managed June's file for 2 years. Under the hum of the AC, we listened as cicadas and family thrum braided together. June recorded a memo. Marla continued. We'll share later. For now, I can confirm Ms. Riley is listed as beneficiary of non-cash assets. Evan leaned forward, elbows white-knuckled on the table. Non-cash means sentimental, he said brightly. Like quilts or recipes. He looked around for approval, then toward the back fence. Mrs. Alvarez, our grandmother's neighbor, had paused there with a dish. Sentimental, she said, eyebrow arched. Like the keys June asked me to hold. Her voice was honey over nails. She produced a key envelope photo from her purse, dated and initialed by Grandma, labeled Riley. The metallic edge winked. Beneath it, a USB drive index, handwritten by June, listed CNJ jingle rights, 1992 to 2010, brand files, and vendor contacts. I remembered Grandma humming while I swept. Not sentimental. Structural. Marla continued, measured. Board acknowledgments are on file. We can produce a board minutes excerpt to that effect. Evan's laughter was a glass shattering softly. There hasn't been a board in years, he said. My aunt's face did something between pity and surprise. We reconstituted last spring, Marla said. Per June's direction. The board minutes named me, where he swore my name never appeared. Ripple effects, group chat erupts. Our family chat ballooned like a popcorn bag left too long in the microwave. Money doesn't change grief, a cousin wrote. But some people didn't even visit, an aunt shot back. Someone dropped a restaurant receipt, family brunch, from last month, and asked why certain meals counted as business. Another relative DM'd me privately. You don't deserve this, they typed, dots pulsing, then deleted. Evan paced, phone to ear, whispering to someone labeled S. Ops on his screen. He made a show of smiling when he hung up. Everyone relax, he announced. The executor's confused. We're moving to a family meeting next week. My aunt set her glass down harder than necessary. Ice rang out like a tiny alarm. I scrolled the group chat thread, thumbs cold. My mother, who avoids conflict like a forest fire, wrote, "Let's honor June by being kind," which nobody liked and everybody ignored. Mrs. Alvarez set her casserole down with gentle finality and slipped me a folded note, Grandma's handwriting, the last lines echoing in my head. If they stall, ask Marla for the minutes. Evan's mother blocked my number mid-afternoon. I noticed when her delivered turned to not delivered. A cousin texted me a screenshot, Evan asking them not to feed gossip. I didn't feel rich. I felt like I'd been handed a magnet in a room full of filings. The chat kept pinging until it went quiet, like everyone chose the cheapest silence. My aunt stopped responding after asking how much I planned to take. Failed confrontation, the delay. I asked Evan for documents under the patio string lights while gnats orbited like satellites. Show me what you have, I said. I'll share everything I'm sent. He smiled at a point over my shoulder. I'll compile, he said. It's complex. He pivoted to my old mistakes, a semester I withdrew from, a lease I broke early, the time I forgot to RSVP. You don't like responsibility, he murmured, setting a glass down with a click that felt rehearsed. June gave me responsibility, I said. You're keeping me from seeing it. He shook his head in a rhythm I recognized from childhood, when he'd deny stealing Halloween candy with the wrapper still in his palm. You're misreading drafts, he said. Stop making this adversarial. He pinched the key envelope Mrs. Alvarez had brought, examined the flap, and slid it into his blazer. I'll guard this, he announced. For the family. Give it back, Aunt Nora said, voice ironed flat. He patted his pocket. Tomorrow, he said. Email, too. The executor requested a quick attestation by end of day. Evan replied, Monday works better. It was Saturday. He smiled like a man who'd closed a minor deal and turned to refill his drink. I felt a cool, thin anger settle, clear enough to see through. My grandmother hated delay dressed as dignity. Evan pocketed the key envelope while promising to email me everything tomorrow. Confidant enters, mapped the timeline. Mateo, 31M, my librarian friend and chaos calmer, arrived after a text that said, "Do you need a brain?" We spread receipts, emails, and notes across Aunt Nora's dining table, AC whispering above us. Artifacts up top, feelings later, he said, and drew a line down a legal pad. We pinned, attorney letterhead PDF, trustee email, case hashtag, beneficiary list redaction, key envelope photo, and the group chat thread. Let's request ethically, he said, drafting a one-paragraph email to Marla asking for limited, non-instructional confirmation, acknowledgement of beneficiary status, and any public-facing board documentation. No phishing, he said, just what already exists. I breathed easier with verbs assigned to nerves. On a hunch, Mateo searched the Secretary of State filings on his phone and found Cedar and June Tools listed as an active corporation with 3 directors. He highlighted a downloadable board minutes excerpt from last quarter. My stomach dropped at a sentence. Motion to restore legacy jingle IP to beneficiary Riley M. ____ per June's directive. Mateo circled it with a slow pen. If this is accurate, you're a voting member, he said. Through the window, Evan laughed too loudly at something that wasn't funny. A mosquito landed on my wrist. I let it go. What if I don't want it? I asked. Mateo shrugged. You can choose later. First, confirm the truth. He turned his pad, the minutes line underlined twice, and the room went simultaneously smaller and clearer. Mateo circled a line in minutes where my name should never appear. Reveal, hidden asset module. Marla replied at 9:12 p.m. Crisp and surgical. Attached, find non-confidential excerpts. The PDF glowed on my aunt's laptop. Board minutes excerpt, USB drive index, and a one-page summary titled Non-Cash Legacy Assets. Cedar and June's old radio jingles, Grandma's precious earworms, generated modest but steady IP royalties through a regional ad syndicate. More importantly, beneficiary Riley M. ___ will hold 26% voting shares upon transfer. Interim voting rights acknowledged as of Q2, the minutes read. Evan's face blanched when Aunt Nora read it aloud. He kept standing, then sat abruptly as if gravity had increased. This is reckless, he snapped. Riley hasn't earned it. He chewed his lip, calculating. Voting shares mean decisions, Mateo murmured, eyes on me. His stake is what? Aunt Nora answered quietly, 24%. I didn't gloat. I wanted to go back to being a person who folded receipts into shapes. Instead, I listened to cicadas and my pulse and the popcorn pop of Evan's texts firing somewhere. The USB drive index, in Grandma's looping hand listed contracts and vendor codes. She hadn't left me a windfall. She'd left me ballast. The last line of the minutes held an anvil. Pending board vote on COO bonus contingent on transparency metrics. Tiebreak per beneficiary. Evan went very still, then very bright. That's illegal, he said, finally looking at me. That's slander. The minutes showed me as tiebreak vote on his pending bonus. Consequences begin, steps, not war. I took the smallest, clearest actions. I acknowledged receipt to Marla and asked for a short, scheduled call. No advice, no strategy, just understanding the pages I already had. I forwarded the minutes to a separate email I control and printed one copy that smelled like warm paper. I put the pages in a manila folder with a dot of blue ink so I'd know if someone swapped them. Aunt Nora texted the other director, retired shop foreman, 62M, to request a brief confirmation that wouldn't trigger anything formal. He replied with a thumbs up and a time. I muted the family chat. I wrote down my boundaries like an emergency plan. No arguments after dark. No solo conversations with Evan. No document leaving my possession. Marla emailed a calendar link for stakeholder clarification, 20 minutes. The subject line included case hashtag and a dial-in. I added Mateo as a silent listener. My mother, frowning at conflict but not fleeing it this time, put a glass of water beside me like a blessing. The AC word. The patio lights buzzed. Evan sent me a private message with a smile emoji and the words, "Let's be adults." At 9:40 p.m., my phone lit with a new subject line. Bank letter, transfer pending, addressed to the trust's email, noting an upcoming administrative hold pending beneficiary acknowledgement. The letter was boring and powerful, exactly how protection looks. Compliance asked me to join a stakeholder call and to record everything. Fork in the road, choice. Marla outlined my options in neutral verbs: acknowledge and participate, accept and immediately delegate, defer and seek independent counsel, or decline parts one didn't want. Whatever you choose, document it, she said. June valued clarity. I thought of Grandma's precise fountain pen and the way she'd smooth paper twice before signing. I could take the shares and go silent. I could push for transparency and watch a bridge burn in tidy flames. I could hand the decision to someone else and pretend I had no hands. I asked myself what I wanted besides fewer group texts. The answer came in a small voice. If I'm going to be on a board with my grandmother's name on the door, then the board will act like a board, not a family chat with receipts. I want transparency, I said, even if it's awkward. Marla paused. Then you'll need to say that, she said, tone steady. To the room. I pictured Evan's jaw tightening and felt an odd calm. I texted a sentence to Mateo that tasted like metal when I typed it. I'm not fighting. I'm naming. He replied with a check mark. Aunt Nora squeezed my shoulder and set down her glass softly. I chose transparency even if it burned every bridge they'd built. Counterplan, execution. I sent a simple notice to the directors and Marla, using words that held no fire. I acknowledged beneficiary status, accepted interim voting rights for the narrow purpose of the scheduled clarification, and requested that any performance-linked votes be tabled until board documents could be reviewed in common. No threats, no emojis. I CC'd Aunt Nora and the foreman. I BCC'd myself at a backup address. Mateo drafted a one-page inventory access plan to list the USB drive index, items, and where they physically lived. Mrs. Alvarez, unbothered by family theater, provided a photocopy of the key envelope photo and offered to hold the originals until Monday. I took a picture of the picture, then set both in a zip bag atop Grandma's recipe box. The bag made a soft crinkle like a small applause. I created a new folder named June Board, working, and dropped in the board minutes excerpt, trustee email, case hashtag, and bank letter, transfer pending. I turned off message previews on my lock screen. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and handwrote tomorrow's call time and a list of 3 questions that weren't knives. At 6:01 p.m., the email client whooshed, and my notice hit every director's inbox at once. Evan read it from across the yard, thumb freezing mid-scroll. Wow, he said to no one. So we're doing this. At 6:01 p.m., my notice hit every director's inbox simultaneously. Public/professional reckoning, the room. The call began with static, then settled. Roll call. The foreman said, voice warm stone. Marla summarized. Beneficiary acknowledged. Documents circulated. 1 motion pending. Evans present, arrived slick and cheerful. I read my sentence about transparency and asked that the COO bonus vote be tabled until basic financial summaries were circulated to all directors, including me, the beneficiary. Silence. Cicadas. One ice clink. Can you speak to the minutes delay in Q2? The foreman asked Evan. He laughed first, then answered. We were busy, he said. Drafts exist. Marla's typing sounded faintly through the line. We've requested those drafts twice, she said. The foreman cleared his throat. I move we table the bonus and set a document review, he said. Second, Aunt Nora said. Discussion, he asked. Evan said my involvement was destabilizing. The foreman asked, destabilizing like a beneficiary listed in our filings? Evan's smile sounded like a door closing. A vote clicked, 2 ayes, and after a beat, my yes. The motion carried. We'll schedule a document review, the foreman said. Evan, please send all drafts, with dates. Evan's voice went small around the vowels. Of course, he said. They asked Evan to step out while they voted without him. Aftershock, reorders. Monday felt like Tuesday wearing a different shirt. Apologies arrived in cautious font. An aunt wrote that grief made her reactive. A cousin admitted Evan coached them to trust him. Mrs. Alvarez knocked with a shoebox that smelled like lemon oil and summer. Inside, handwritten vendor lists, Jingle's notes in Grandma's loops, and a Polaroid tagged, Photo EXIF. Childhood property, of me and Evan stocking screws barefoot in the old shop. Mateo and I labeled folders. No how to, just names and dates. I ate cereal out of a mug while the AC hummed and thought about June humming too. The USB drive index matched neatly to the shoebox contents. A Venmo note. For cleanup, from Evan to a contractor popped in the group chat, and nobody engaged. Silence sometimes is repair. Evan texted me once. You're hurting the brand, he wrote. I typed and deleted until only. Transparency protects brands, remained. He replied with a single word, traitor. I muted him and put my phone face down. Marla sent a calendar invite, while reading follow-up for a shorter, in-person review of non-confidential pieces. The foreman offered to host at the shop break room with its sticky table and loud clock. The past, present, and the hum of the soda machine would all be there. Grandma's neighbor brought a shoebox of receipts that rewrote last summer. Resolution, status. We met in the break room, where the clock bullied every minute into shape. The foreman slid a thin stack across to me, a summary of what is, without telling me what to do. The board voted to adopt a quarterly transparency report. I voted yes. Evan sat, eyes glassy, then excused himself before the meeting ended. No fireworks, just paper moving to better shelves. I signed my name on a pledge Aunt Nora drafted to fund 2 Tool scholarships each spring in June's name using a portion of the IP royalties. I declined any retroactive back pay calculations. I accepted the shares with a written boundary. No family texts about business without documents attached. I put the key envelope photo back in its bag for Monday's formal handoff. I took Grandma's Jingles notes home and tucked them into my bookshelf under a ceramic bird she gave me at 10. In the parking lot, cicadas pulsed like a warm engine. I breathed. The inheritance wasn't a lottery ticket. It was a language June had hoped I'd learn. Clear asks, clean paperwork, and kindness that doesn't skip the hard part. I signed a pledge to fund apprenticeships instead of buying silence. Reflection and advice, what it means. Inheritance, it turns out, is less money than verbs. It asked me to notice, to name, to stay calm when someone moved the goalposts and called it maintenance. Evan's motive was control braided with fear. Naming it didn't fix him, but it unhooked me. I learned to collect lightweight artifacts, board minutes excerpt, trusty email, case hashtag, a date on a notary seal close-up, and let them speak instead of 1,000 arguments. Red flags I won't ignore again. Delayed drafts that never arrive. Meetings that exclude people named on the envelope, and any sentence that starts with "we'll tell you later." Boundaries I'll keep. No midnight decisions, no documents leaving my hands without a copy, and no family-only conversations about corporate things. If you're where I was, sweaty backyard, ice clinking, an envelope making your pulse weird, remember that clarity is not cruelty. Ask for what already exists. Write down what you choose. Let the cicadas hum while you breathe. Tonight the cicadas hummed, and I finally heard my grandmother answer back.